Hey guys, it is finally that time on which we go about what is new in Unveil, but first, I have a little announcement. We have sort of partnered with Curse. They have a huge library of wikis for games, almost up to 1,000 games are in there, and they came to us and they said, hey, this game is perfect for Curse. You know, it's fairly complex and so on. So it's like, yeah, I guess we do actually need a wiki, so I don't have to set it up myself. They went ahead and did it. I just went in and put the right assets. So make sure you check it out. It's practically bare bones, so if anyone want to help out adding what kind of items are there in the game, what kind of maps, what are the stats of this or that, whatever, like any technical information you want to like lay down, all the geeky stuff, if you want to help out, this is a great project to get into. So you're gonna find the link to it in the description below. Make sure you check it out. Now, I know this is a fairly long video, so if you are in a rush, just check the changelog. You're gonna find the link in the description below. But otherwise, let's sit back, relax, you know, just get a noisy chair, and let's go and find out what is new and what makes so awesome. The Enhance content patch. I found out that I could really do this thing and go through with it. It was the third time I was attempting this, and what I was doing is actually porting Unveil to a new engine that runs so much better. It's still RPG Maker, yep, but you're just, oh man, the improvements with this. First of all, the game is now running on GPU as opposed to CPU for graphics rendering. So you're gonna see up to 4 times performance boost. If you were running the game at 30 FPS or you were using the fast rendering, you don't need to do that anymore. You're probably gonna run it at 60 FPS. The game just looks so much better. It's so responsive and so smooth. I couldn't even run it at 60 FPS. I mean, come on, CPU, give me a break. We definitely needed to do this, and it's working beautifully. With it, of course, comes Steam support and Steam Screenshot with it. And since I have full control on this engine, I was able to, of course, remove the F12 resets the game, which was a really dumb decision by whoever decided that on the original RPG Maker player. So wow, so that is gone and for good. And you're gonna be able to use Steam Overlay if you want, chat in the game. You can of course take screenshots and then share it with everybody, and I definitely want you sharing your experiences now. Then of course, with this new processing power, you gotta do something with it, right? So Particle Studios went ahead and made its own particle system, pun intended. So you're gonna find that Particle Studios, just me, but you get the idea. This new particle system, it's beautiful. We're just starting to use it, but you're definitely gonna quickly realize how well it suits the game. First of all, the little sparkles floating in the air are now all particle based. So you're gonna see them floating individually, getting pushed by the wind individually, and if some of them get caught in an area where wind is protected, you are gonna see some particles actually get stuck there because, well, wind is not pushing as hard there, right? You're also gonna see some splashing going on whenever it rains on the ground, but I think the most beautiful case of study of the use of the new particle system is the campfire. The campfire now will have a little flame and smoke that is a one-to-one representation of the flame size and fuel that is being burned live. That is, I think it's beautiful. I think the beauty of the game really has to come from the details as opposed to AAA graphics that we just can't have. And these details really make a difference. You're gonna see the smoke getting, you know, more intense the more fuel is being burned. If there's wind, of course, is going to get pushed. The more wind, the farther away. And you're even gonna notice that the smoke turns into gray if the campfire is too humid because maybe you put it off with water, or there's just a lot of air humidity. And you're definitely gonna see the change on the smoke. The smoke is really gonna represent what is going on in the simulation. So I think it's just beautiful in a simulation game that you're really able to peek into what's under the hood with the visuals, right? And it just looks beautiful. Every time I set up a campfire, I'm like, that's beautiful. and I'm sure you're gonna enjoy that as well. And this is just the beginning for the particle system, but I'm pretty sure everybody can run this well. And if you can't, there is a setting to lower this down. Also, speaking of settings, you are now going to be able to switch around the rendering mode whenever you stretch the pixels higher to 720p or 1080p. Before, it used to be, well, uncontrolled, so it would look like smooth on some systems and crisp on others. Now I have control on it, so I set the crisp rendering as default, and you're definitely going to be seeing sharper pixels whenever you scale this up. And the game just looks so much nicer. It takes some time to get used to it, but once you do, it just looks great. And if you like the way it was before, you can just always switch it back at the settings. There's a little setting for it. This was actually suggested by a user on the very beginning. I can't remember exactly who. There's so many of you, but I definitely remember this request. And whenever I saw this, I was like, yeah, this has to be in. That person asked for it, and actually looks better. So this is now the new default value for it. Then of course there was a bunch of bug spraying all over, a bunch of fixes to make sure you have the most stable experience possible. This engine is actually more stable, so you shouldn't have any engine crashes as some were having. And as for game crashes, I'm not getting any single game crash so far, so I'm really happy. I mean, some of you are definitely gonna get it, and please report it on the bug report section on the Steam discussion section. That's the one I really keep a look at and I get notified for, so definitely put it there. But and it's a new engine, so you're definitely gonna find bugs. But I fixed a very legendary issue on which an item may become another one whenever you switch maps. So you come in and you see, you pick a stick and it's actually a rock, or you just see berry bushes floating in the air for no reason. That's actually item swapping. It's an error that was happening whenever the map switched. So that has been completely redone, and it just now works flawlessly. I think it seems so far. So you're definitely not gonna get that error anymore, or things acting strange not happening anymore, or getting items out of nowhere not happening anymore. Now it's just way more stable, and there's has been fixes also for better detection of what kind of tile you're interacting with. So now, like before, if you were gonna interact on a tile with water or with a pond, right, and that tile had a little edge of a tree or something, right? It wasn't just pure water, but it had a little tree or something covering it. I wouldn't detect the water. Now I have redone that, so I can properly detect all of the features of a tile and then bring up the interactions that are according to it. But it wouldn't be a content patch without actual content, so I figured just before releasing I would actually add some to the game. So there's a lot of things I want to add, content wise and feature wise, but for now we're focusing on two things. One of them is that free roam, which has 15 open air maps, if you may, without counting the caves or secret areas, which, by the way, the game has secret areas, and I only seen very few YouTubers find them. I don't know about you guys playing it, but I only seen really few YouTubers finding these secret areas. Make sure you check out what's going on. Free roam has a couple at least. Yep. And now that 15 open maps are getting about 5 or 6 more added to them, without counting also the caves or any secret area that may come with that. So that makes a total of over 20 maps that you have to explore on free roam. But that wouldn't really help much if you would start in the same spot, right? So now on free roam, you are starting on different locations every time you start. Right now there are 3 different locations you can start in. One of them is of course the one you're starting with right now, and if you want to try the new ones, which are actually part of the new content, you can just hit restart the scenario over and over until you get a new area. Should happen really quickly. And there's a little desert area there as well, and you're gonna be able to, for the first time, interact with cactuses, which were in the game. There was just no area that hosted them. So for the first time, you're gonna be able to interact with an item that has been long in the game. Because, you know, I was preparing, you know, the desert areas for the tier 4 scenarios, which there is none yet. So yeah, that's definitely a thing, and the idea, as you can see with free roam, is just to keep expanding on it, right? Keep adding content to it, and then just appear in different locations. So it feels like a different scenario, right? With no goals in this case, just survive as long as you can, but with different situations, different resources every time you start. And you still know that you can explore and go all the way back to other areas you already know, right? So you don't feel like you're confined in a small area. It just keeps getting larger and larger and larger with time. That's the idea with free roam. Now, there's like one little more thing, and that is a new item that I brought in that luckily wasn't too hard to implement. And it is what I call the Humidity Condenser. This is a fairly complicated item to craft. It takes about 3 sticks, many big leaves, and vines, and a coconut or a wooden bowl that you have crafted before. And the idea here is to have this little device standing in there in the ground for air humidity to condense on the big leaves, right? So water drops eventually fall on the container and accumulate water, so you can later on drink it. Of course, this only works with you know, whenever there's like a little bit of humidity at least, or medium or high ideally. If it's too low, water's just gonna keep getting vaporized the moment it falls. Like, it's just not even gonna work. It can't even happen. So definitely that is one thing. That item may help you, especially if you're in an area without water and you need to get it out of somewhere and air is really humid. Also with this new item, I sort of revamped a little bit how water containers work. So you can now, from a hole or just an open container like a coconut or a wooden bowl laying on the ground, or a humidity condenser that now you can place down. From all of this, you can now not only drink, but also pour the content into an existing container you may have, from a poachy fruit to another container, or a coconut carrier that is good to carry a lot of water with you. You know, without actually getting the slow movement buff or debuff, if you may. And it doesn't have to be you know, fully filled. As long as it has a little bit of water, you can already put it in, and it will count towards that. So it will keep adding water to it. There have been so many changes done, so you could do that. But it's good to know that you have more or better water container support now in the game. I fixed a bug that is gonna change everything, that apparently the weather events weren't triggering on free roam. They just weren't anywhere. I mean, but they weren't triggering on free roam either. So now that is actually in place, and not only the little guy will say, hey, I feel like there's a polar wind coming in, but also you're gonna see the name of that weather event whenever you hit the space bar, right? And you see the menu and your objectives, if there are any. On the top left corner, you're gonna see what weather event is going on. And weather events are basically like changes on the weather, right? Like a polar wind starts to blow in, so you know, it starts to get more windy, temperature starts to drop more, or you can have a tropical weather in which, you know, it's very humid and it rains a lot, or maybe a dry season on which it doesn't rain and the soil is dry. And you know, I don't want to just tell and spell out everything that is going on in the simulation, because I do want you to sort of have a little sense of immersion going on, but I think this was important to indicate. So now you're gonna see what weather event, not only that it works, but also you're gonna be able to see which weather event is going on, and the progress part of it. So you're gonna quickly tell, well, eventually how long it's gonna take until it's over. So there's a Few more things, you can find them in the changelog, but overall that is pretty much it. It was just a lot of time invested into getting Unveil run properly. You're definitely gonna be experiencing the game at 60 FPS, which I believe nobody was playing at. Even at least no YouTuber that I saw was able to play the game at 60 FPS, not because they have a crappy computer, just because you're not supposed to render graphics on a CPU. That's crazy. So it should run at steady 60 FPS now, and you're definitely gonna notice the game just going faster, to the point I had to talk to Adam. He's the guy making some of the sound effects. He also made music in the game, to just sort of readjust some sound effects because some are a little bit off now, and you're gonna hear that. We didn't manage to change them on time, so some sound effects are gonna be off because the game is running so much faster now. But besides that, yeah. This was a really important content patch that just needed to happen, right? So in case you're wondering what's gonna happen next, the biggest feedback I believe that I took, I mean, I've been getting a lot of feedback from the game. Gladly, everybody enjoys it, and everybody finds the value and the opportunity what this game can actually become. But the number one current feedback is replayability. And I think whenever we say replayability, we don't mean what I think we used to mean before, like being able to replay the same locations, the same maps, or the same scenarios in the case of Unveil many times and feel like we're getting a different experience every time. I think now with new technologies and so on and new practices, what we really mean with replayability is playing the same game without installing without buying new content or so on, being able to do more, to get more hours out of it without feeling like we're doing the exact same thing. We're not doing procedural maps. I have clarified that before. I'm gonna say it again. That is not something that makes sense to do in RPG Maker. It's just terrible. RPG Maker doesn't even know what height is on a map. It's just completely lost. We can't do that, especially because maps in Unveil are really complex compared to other maybe procedurally generated survival games. You have cliffs. You have a lot of differences between things. You need to have different resources. And I believe that the handcrafted scenarios are superior because you can add secret areas, you can do little tricks because you're a human, you can trick another human, right? And make it more interesting than just randomly placing things around, which is great for replayability, for quick replayability, but I think it's not as good as what you can have whether it's handmade and custom made. Of course, that's never going to be the case. Computers can be as creative as humans. So, replayability is the number one item in my list right now, and I've been doing some experiments, just like I did before whenever I woke up at 1 a.m. to sort of start porting the game into this engine. And with these experiments, it seems that this is doable, what I want to do. Again, not procedural map, but I think it's very important to get it done now, so you guys feel like you can have endless hours of gameplay already in Unveil, and then we just keep adding features and content and other stuff, but just so you feel like you're definitely getting the ability to invest as much time as you want without feeling like you're grinding. As for this content patch, that is all. Make sure you try it out and tell me if you like how the game is performing really, and maybe the slightly better looking graphics kind of, and yeah, give it a shot to the Humidity Condenser if you find an opportunity to use it. And yeah, I guess that is all. If you have any suggestions, there is a category for that in the Steam group discussion section. You just go to the store page and you can find the community hub link right there. And yep, that is pretty much it. Thank you everybody again for being part of this. I love you guys. You're such an awesome community. I am so happy I am able to make more content and features and get the game better for you. This is really enjoyable. It's stressful as well because whenever somebody tells me something doesn't work, I jump off the chair and I need to find out what that is and fix it as soon as possible. It's just one thing that I just need to do. So it can be stressful. I try not to get too stressed. I try not to work from morning, afternoon, and night, which I do sometimes because I get obsessed with things. But besides that, whenever I calm down, I go like, yeah, I definitely love doing this. And part of it is really just because of you guys that are so cool about this. So thank you for watching this. And if you are not part of it, make sure you subscribe to the newsletter, link below, so you receive a notification every month whenever there's a new content available for the game, just for you to download for free, of course, as a patch. So definitely go ahead and do that. I mean, if you're playing the game, you're following it, it's just one email a month. It's not gonna spam you at all. I respect inboxes because, man, I hate when they don't respect mine. So now for the third and last time, that is all. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you on the next content batch.